Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the window of her shuttle as it approached the massive space station called Concordia. The structure stretched across 50 kilometers of space, its crystal towers and metal rings spinning slowly against the backdrop of distant stars. After 3 years of planning, humanity was finally meeting the rulers of the galaxy. "It's bigger than our moon," whispered Dr. Martinez, the team's scientist. His hands shook slightly as he checked his tablet for the 100th time. Sarah nodded but kept her eyes on the station. Somewhere inside that massive structure, 12 alien species waited to decide if humans deserved to join galactic civilization. The thought made her stomach twist with nervous energy. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. Sarah straightened her blue diplomatic uniform and picked up the metal case containing Earth's gifts for the Council. Inside were samples of human art, music recordings, scientific papers, and a small vial of water from every ocean on Earth. The airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a tall corridor made of some smooth white material that seemed to glow with its own light. 3 aliens waited for them. The first looked like a person made of living crystal, its body catching and reflecting light in rainbow patterns. The second was covered in silver fur and had 4 arms. The third appeared almost human except for its bright green skin and large black eyes. "Welcome to Concordia," said the crystal being, its voice sounding like wind chimes. "I am Silnara of the Zephyrian people. These are my colleagues, Mordak of the Zilani and Jesshai of the Valthree." Sarah bowed slightly, the way their cultural briefings had taught her. "I am Ambassador Chen of Earth. We are honored to meet you." Silnara's crystal face somehow managed to look pleased. "The Council is eager to learn about your species. Please follow us." They walked through corridors that changed color as they passed, past windows showing impossible views of nebulae and distant suns. Other aliens moved through the halls, some floating, some walking on multiple legs, others sliding along the walls like living liquid. "Your station is beautiful," Dr. Martinez said, staring up at a ceiling that showed what looked like a real sky. "Concordia has been our meeting place for 8,000 years, Mordak explained, his 4 arms moving as he spoke. "It has seen the rise and fall of many species who sought membership in our council." The way he said it made Sarah's heart skip. She had studied the records. In the past century, the council had rejected 15 species. Only 3 had been accepted in the last 1,000 years. They entered a vast chamber shaped like an amphitheater. 12 platforms rose from the floor at different heights, each one designed for a different type of alien. Some platforms were filled with water, others glowed with strange energy, and one seemed to be made of pure darkness. "The Council of 12, Silnara announced. "The Guardians of Galactic Peace." Sarah looked up at the platforms. She could see various shapes moving on them, but the distance and strange lighting made it hard to make out details. Only one figure was clear, a tall humanoid with silver skin sitting on the highest platform. "Beings of Earth," a voice spoke directly into their minds, making Dr. Martinez stumble backward. "I am High Counselor Thexhai of the Valthree. We speak mind to mind so that language cannot hide truth." Sarah fought the strange feeling of having another consciousness touch her thoughts. "We come in peace, seeking friendship with the species of the galaxy." "Peace." Thexhai's mental voice carried what felt like bitter amusement. "Show us your peace, humans." The chamber filled with holographic images. Sarah watched in growing horror as the council displayed humanity's history. Wars across every continent, cities burning, weapons that could destroy entire planets. The images showed every terrible moment from human history, from ancient battles to modern conflicts. "Your species has known war for its entire existence," another mental voice spoke. This one felt cold and distant. "You have poisoned your own world with your industries. You fight over resources, land, ideas, even the color of your skin." Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Yes, we have fought. Yes, we have made mistakes. But we have also created beauty. We have art, music, literature. We explore space not to conquer, but to learn. Silence. Thexhai's mental command hit like a physical blow. "We will judge for ourselves." The next 3 days blurred together. The council tested everything about humanity. They scanned the human delegates with strange devices. They downloaded every file from their computers. They asked endless questions about human culture, technology, and history. Sarah found herself explaining why humans made art, why they loved music, why they risked their lives to save strangers. Dr. Martinez described human scientific achievements, vaccines that saved millions, space missions that reached other worlds, technologies that cleaned polluted water. But always the questions came back to violence. Why did humans fight? Why couldn't they live in peace? Why should the galaxy trust a species that couldn't even trust itself? On the final day, Sarah was brought alone before the council. She stood in the center of the chamber while 12 alien species studied her from their platforms. Sarah Chen of Earth. HFY's voice filled her mind. We have reached our decision. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of alien technology. Sarah's hands clenched into fists at her sides. Your species shows promise, HFY continued. You have creativity, curiosity, and courage. These are valuable traits. Hope flickered in Sarah's chest. However, the counselor's mental voice turned cold. You also show dangerous instability. Your capacity for violence is matched by few species in galactic history. Your emotions override your logic. Your individualism threatens group harmony. The other council members joined their voices to HFY's, creating a chorus in Sarah's mind that made her head pound. Most troubling is your unpredictability. Peaceful species follow patterns. They can be understood, predicted, controlled. Your species thrives on chaos and change. This makes you dangerous to galactic stability. We can learn, Sarah said aloud, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. We can grow. We can be better. Perhaps, HFY replied. But the galaxy cannot risk the chaos your species would bring. Therefore, the Council has voted. Humanity is denied membership in galactic civilization. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She had expected this might happen, but hearing it still felt like having her heart ripped out. Furthermore, HFY continued, your species is too dangerous to be allowed unrestricted space travel. Effective immediately, your solar system will be quarantined. Any attempt to leave will be met with force. Around the chamber, alien technology hummed to life. Through the windows, Sarah could see energy beams shooting from hidden weapons on Concordia. They formed a web of light that stretched out toward the edges of the solar system. You're caging us, Sarah whispered. We are protecting the galaxy, HFY replied. Your species may develop within your home system. Perhaps in a few thousand years you will have learned peace. Then we will reconsider. Sarah looked up at the 12 platforms, her fear and disappointment transforming into something harder and hotter. You've made the greatest mistake in galactic history, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Humanity doesn't break under pressure. We forge ourselves stronger. You think you're protecting the galaxy from us? You're protecting us from a galaxy that's too weak to handle what we can become. She turned and walked toward the exit, her team following behind her. As the airlock sealed behind them, Sarah looked back at Concordia one last time. The Council thought they had caged humanity. They had no idea what they had actually done. They had given Earth's entire population a common enemy and unlimited time to prepare. As their shuttle departed for Earth, Sarah could see the purple glow of the energy barrier beginning to form around their solar system. Soon, that purple light would be visible from Earth's surface, a constant reminder of the galaxy's rejection. But it would also be a reminder of humanity's greatest strength. When the whole universe said no, humans found a way to say yes anyway. 5 years had passed since the purple light first appeared in Earth's night sky. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood in the observation deck of Luna Base 7, watching construction robots work on the massive structure that now wrapped around Earth's moon. The robots never stopped, never slept, never complained about the impossible task they had been given. Daily progress report, his assistant Elena called from across the room. She was young, barely 25, but like everyone born after the rejection, she carried herself with a purpose that impressed Marcus. Section 12 is complete, Marcus replied, reading from his tablet. That brings us to 60% completion on the ring. Elena whistled softly. The ring was humanity's first megastructure, a massive habitat that followed Earth's entire orbital path around the sun. When finished, it would house 50 million people and serve as a construction platform for even larger projects. Marcus looked at the data scrolling across his screen. Before the rejection, such a project would have taken centuries to plan and build. Now, with the entire human race working together, they were finishing it in 7 years. Dr. Rivera, came a voice from the communication console. Captain Vasquez is requesting permission to begin Phase 2 testing. Marcus nodded. Tell her she's cleared for launch. Through the observation window, Marcus watched a ship unlike anything humanity had ever built before rise from Luna Base 7. It looked organic, almost alive, with a hull that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. This was the Prometheus, humanity's first bioship. The traditional approach to space travel used metals and electronics, but humans had taken a different path. Unable to study alien technology directly, they had turned to biology. The Prometheus was grown rather than built, its hull made from engineered organisms that could repair themselves and adapt to different environments. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice came over the radio. Luna Base 7, this is Prometheus. Beginning Phase 2 test sequence. Marcus held his breath as the ship's hull began to glow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship simply vanished. Successful quantum displacement, Elena's voice crackled through the radio, now coming from somewhere much farther away. Prometheus is now in orbit around Jupiter. The bio-quantum drive is working perfectly. Marcus smiled for the first time in weeks. The bio-quantum drive was humanity's answer to the Council's hyperspace lanes. While alien ships had to follow fixed routes through space, human vessels could appear anywhere instantaneously. It was chaotic, unpredictable, and completely impossible according to Council physics. The door to the observation deck slid open, and Director Amanda Walsh entered. She was the closest thing Earth had to a world leader now, though her title was simply Director of the Terran Innovation Collective. Everything had changed after the rejection. Old nations and borders seemed pointless when the entire species faced the same challenge. Marcus, she said, we need to talk. They walked together toward the elevator that would take them deep underground. Marcus had heard rumors about the deep projects, but his security clearance had never been high enough to see them himself. The elevator descended for what felt like minutes, passing through layers of rock and metal. When it finally stopped, Marcus found himself in a cavern that stretched beyond the reach of his eyes. The walls glowed with veins of some strange blue material that pulsed like a heartbeat. Exotic matter, Director Walsh explained, seeing his amazed expression. The Council's scanners missed it because it only exists in Earth's deep mantle. We've learned to harvest it. They walked along a metal pathway suspended above the cavern floor. Below them, Marcus could see massive machines extracting the glowing blue substance. The air itself seemed to hum with energy. This changes everything, Marcus whispered. It already has, Walsh replied. We're not just building ships and habitats anymore. We're building something the Council has never seen before. A civilization that grows stronger under pressure. She led him to another observation window. Through it, Marcus could see vast underground cities carved from living rock. Millions of people lived and worked in spaces that would have been impossible to create with conventional technology. Children played in parks where the ceiling showed artificial stars. Scientists worked in laboratories that could create any environment imaginable. The surface of Earth is just the beginning, Walsh explained. We're building down as well as up. The entire planet is becoming a fortress. They continued walking through tunnels that connected different underground complexes. Marcus saw workshops where new technologies were developed daily. He saw farms that produced more food per square meter than anything on the surface. He saw training facilities where young humans learned to pilot the new bioships. Why are you showing me this? Marcus asked. Walsh stopped walking and turned to face him. Because Phase 3 is about to begin and we need your expertise. She handed him a data tablet. Marcus read through the file, his eyes growing wider with each page. You want to breach the quarantine, he said. We want to explore beyond it, Walsh corrected. The Council thinks they've trapped us, but they've only hidden us. For 5 years we've been building in secret. Now it's time to see what's really out there. The next morning, Marcus found himself on the bridge of the Aurora, one of the newer bioships. Unlike the Prometheus, this vessel was designed for stealth and long-range exploration. Its hull could bend light around itself, making it effectively invisible to conventional sensors. Captain Sarah Kim, Ambassador Chen's daughter, commanded the ship. She had been only 18 when the rejection happened, but the experience had shaped her into someone much older than her years. All stations report ready, she announced. Mr. Rivera, are the scanners calibrated? Marcus checked his instruments one final time.
Ready to record everything we find. Good, Captain Kim replied.
Let's go see what our neighbors have been hiding from us. The Aurora rose from its hidden dock beneath the Pacific Ocean. Marcus, watched through the viewports as they passed, through Earth's atmosphere and entered space. The purple glow of the quarantine barrier was clearly visible, stretching in all directions like a vast net of energy. "Beginning approach to barrier," reported the pilot. "Hull modifications are active." The Aurora began to change. Its organic hull flowed and shifted, adapting itself to match the energy patterns of the barrier. Marcus held his breath as they made contact with the purple light. For a moment, the ship's systems went haywire. Lights flickered and alarms sounded. Then everything went quiet and they were through. "Successful breach," Captain Kim announced. "We're outside the solar system." Marcus immediately began scanning nearby space with the ship's sensors. What he found made his blood run cold. "Captain," he called, "you need to see this." The main screen lit up with data from their sensors. A massive council fleet hung in space just outside the quarantine barrier. Hundreds of ships waited there, watching for any sign that humanity might try to escape their cage. But more importantly, Marcus's long-range scanners were picking up signals from nearby star systems, emergency broadcasts, distress calls, signals that suggested many alien species were not living as peacefully as the Council claimed. "It seems the galaxy isn't as peaceful as they told us," Captain Kim observed. Marcus continued scanning, recording everything they found. System after system showed signs of conflict, oppression, or simply silence where there should have been thriving civilizations. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "I'm picking up a transmission. It's in a human language, Spanish." "That's impossible," Marcus said. "No human ships have left the solar system." But as they listened to the transmission, the truth became clear. Somewhere in the galaxy, a human colony ship that had launched before the rejection was sending a desperate plea for help. They were under attack by Council forces. Captain Kim's hands clenched into fists. "Change of plans. Set course for the source of that transmission." "Captain," Marcus warned, "we're not equipped for combat." "We're not going to fight," she replied. "We're going to learn, and then we're going to go home and tell everyone what the Council has really been doing to the galaxy." As the Aurora began its journey deeper into Council space, Marcus realized that humanity's isolation was ending. But they weren't emerging as the same species that had been rejected 5 years ago. They were emerging as something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, something that would either save the galaxy from the Council's oppression or destroy everything in the attempt. Marcus looked at the data streaming across his screens and smiled grimly. The Council had wanted to protect the galaxy from humanity's chaos. They were about to discover just how chaotic humans could really be. Zarthek's crystal body resonated with frequencies that other Zephyrians could not detect. This gift had made him the Council's youngest investigator, able to see patterns in chaos that escaped even the most advanced scanning equipment. Now floating through the wreckage of monitoring station Zerion 7, he wished his abilities would stop showing him the impossible. "The energy readings don't make sense," his partner Velnat said through their shared communication link. Her forearms worked quickly to gather data from the destroyed station's computers. "Nothing in our databases can produce these exotic matter signatures." Zarthek drifted closer to what remained of the station's main hull. The metal had been cut with precision that defied explanation. The edges were smooth as glass, but the composition of the cut suggested technology that worked on a quantum level. "Velnat," he called, his crystalline voice creating harmonic overtones in the thin atmosphere. "Look at this damage pattern." She floated over to join him, her silver fur rippling in the zero gravity. Together they studied the impossible wounds in the station's hull. "It's like something phased through the armor," she whispered. "But that's not possible. Our shields are designed to stop phase weapons." Zarthek let his unique perception expand, seeing beyond visible light into energy spectrums that existed only in mathematical theory. The patterns he detected made his crystal matrix vibrate with alarm. "These aren't phase weapons," he said slowly. "This technology is completely unknown, and whoever used it wanted us to know they could destroy our stations without effort." They had been investigating similar incidents for 3 months now. Council outposts along the outer rim were disappearing with increasing frequency. Each time the attackers left no survivors and no clear evidence. Each time the exotic matter readings grew stronger. "Zarthek," Velnat's voice carried a note of fear that Zephyrians rarely expressed. "These readings, they match the energy signatures from the Sol quarantine zone. The two investigators looked at each other through their helmet visors. The quarantine around Earth's solar system had been active for 10 years. The energy barrier was supposed to be impenetrable, designed by the Council's greatest minds to contain humanity indefinitely. That's impossible, Zarthek said, but even as he spoke the words, he could feel the truth in the resonance patterns around them. The humans are trapped. They can't leave their system. Then explain this, Velnat replied, transmitting data directly to his consciousness. Zarthek absorbed the information and felt his crystal structure shiver. The exotic matter signatures were identical to those produced by the Sol quarantine barrier, but they were appearing hundreds of light years away from Earth, in systems the humans had never seen. Before either of them could speak again, their ship's proximity alarms began screaming. Unknown vessel approaching, their ship's AI announced. Configuration unrecognized. Technology level, unknown. Through the wreckage of the monitoring station, something emerged from what appeared to be empty space. The ship was unlike anything in Council databases. Organic curves mixed with crystalline structures, hull plating that seemed to flow like liquid metal, and energy patterns that made Zarthek's perception abilities sing with harmonic resonance. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Commonwealth. A voice spoke directly into their communication systems, somehow bypassing all security protocols. Investigators Zarthek and Velnat, we need to talk. The human ship moved with impossible grace, positioning itself between the investigators and their vessel without seeming to accelerate. Zarthek realized with growing amazement that the humans weren't just using unknown technology, they were using principles of physics that the Council had declared impossible. How do you know our names? Velnat demanded. We've been monitoring Council communications for some time, Admiral Chen replied. We know about your investigation. We know you've been finding evidence of human involvement in these incidents. We're here to explain why. A docking tube extended from the human ship, somehow matching the Zephyrian vessel's airlock perfectly despite the completely different designs. You're invited aboard, Chen continued. We guarantee your safety and your freedom to leave whenever you choose. Zarthek looked at his partner. Protocol demanded they call for backup and report the contact immediately, but his perception abilities were showing him something extraordinary about these humans. They were telling the truth. Why should we trust you? Velnat asked. Because we're about to show you what the Council has been hiding from the galaxy, Chen replied. And because you deserve to know the truth about what really happened at these monitoring stations. Against all training and protocol, the two investigators decided to board the human ship. The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that defied every assumption they had about human technology. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. The air itself felt different, charged with energy that made both aliens feel more alert and alive than they had in years. Admiral Chen met them in what appeared to be the ship's main meeting room. She was a tall human with dark hair and eyes that held depths of intelligence and determination that surprised Zarthek. Behind her stood two other humans, and to the investigator's shock, a Silnari, one of the galaxy's most oppressed species. Before we begin, Chen said, you should know that your monitoring stations weren't destroyed by human weapons. She gestured to the walls around them, which suddenly became transparent, showing a perfect view of the space outside. They were liberated by joint human Silnari teams, she continued. The stations weren't just monitoring the outer rim. They were enforcing Council taxation and control over species who never asked to be governed by the Council. The Silnari stepped forward. Zarthek had never seen one of their kind this close before. They were tall and graceful, with skin that shifted color based on emotion. Right now, those colors showed determination mixed with hope. I am Elder Yintai, the alien said. For 300 years, my people have starved while the Council taxed away 90% of our agricultural production. They told us it was for galactic security and peace. But the stations you destroyed, Velnat began, were processing centers, Admiral Chen interrupted, calling up holographic displays that showed the station's true purpose. Every world you visited wasn't just monitored. They were strip-mined, their populations controlled, their development stunted to maintain Council superiority. Zarthek studied the data with growing horror. His crystal matrix resonated with frequencies of truth that he couldn't deny. The monitoring stations were actually control centers, ensuring that no species could develop technology that might challenge Council authority. The humans didn't destroy our stations. Elder Yintai continued. They freed us from them. For the first time in centuries, my people can grow food for ourselves instead of the Council's stockpiles. This is impossible, Velnat said, though her voice carried less certainty than before. The Council maintains peace. They protect smaller species from the chaos of unrestricted development. Admiral Chen smiled, but there was no humor in the expression. Let me show you what Council peace really looks like, she said, the walls around them filled with images from across the galaxy. Zarthek watched in growing dismay as he saw world after world suffering under Council rule, species forced to work in conditions that barely sustained life. Entire civilizations prevented from developing basic technologies that might improve their living conditions. Most shocking of all, he saw records of species that had been completely eliminated for the crime of developing faster-than-light travel without Council permission. Every species in the galaxy lives according to Council rules, Chen explained. Rules designed to ensure that no one can challenge the 12. Any world that shows too much innovation, too much independence, or too much growth potential is either controlled or eliminated. But the chaos, Zarthek protested, though his perception abilities were confirming everything the humans showed him. Unrestricted development leads to war, destruction, the collapse of civilization. Does it? Chen asked. Or does that just ensure that the Council remains in power? She gestured, and the displays changed to show human space. Zarthek saw the massive ring habitat around Earth, the underground cities, the impossible technologies that humanity had developed in just 10 years of isolation. Humans were rejected because we were too chaotic, too unpredictable, Chen said. But look what chaos built. We've created technologies that can terraform dead worlds in months instead of centuries. We've developed medicine that can heal genetic damage the Council considers incurable. We've built ships that can travel instantly to any point in space. And we've shared all of it with our allies, Elder Yintai added. The Silnari now have agricultural bioships that can turn asteroids into farm worlds. Other species are developing their own innovations for the first time in millennia. Zarthek's crystal body rang with harmonic frequencies as the truth became undeniable. The Council hadn't been maintaining peace, they had been maintaining stagnation. What do you want from us? He asked. Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. We want you to see the rest of the galaxy. We want you to witness what the Council calls peace and what we call oppression. And then we want you to make your own choice about who you serve. The Council will never accept this. But the news of humanity's victory at Kepler's Gate spread through the galaxy like wildfire, carried by secret networks and black market communications that the Council had thought eliminated centuries ago. On the industrial world of Factorum 7, the insectoid Kithrak workers stopped their endless labor for the first time in living memory and looked up at the stars. Worker Thasnex had never seen the surface of his world. Like all Kithrak, he had been born in the deep factories and had spent his entire life manufacturing goods for the Council's war machine. His chitin was stained with chemicals, and his compound eyes had adapted to see only in the artificial light of the assembly floors. But now, climbing through maintenance shafts toward the surface, Thasnex carried something impossible, a weapon that had appeared in the factory overnight, along with a message that changed everything. People of the galaxy, the recorded voice had said, speaking in perfect Kithrak clicking sounds, you are not alone. The humans of Earth stand with all who choose freedom over oppression. These tools are our gift. Use them well. Thasnex emerged into natural light for the first time in his life and had to shield his eyes against the brightness of Factorum 7's twin suns. Around him, thousands of other Kithrak workers were climbing out of their underground prisons, each one carrying weapons and equipment that had mysteriously appeared throughout the factory complex. The weapons were unlike anything in Council databases. They seemed to be grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that felt warm to the touch. When Thasnex held his weapon, it somehow adapted to his grip, becoming an extension of his own body. Brothers and sisters, he clicked to the gathering crowd, his voice carrying farther than it should have been able to in the thin atmosphere. For 800 years we have served the Council's machines. Today we serve ourselves. The revolution on Factorum 7 lasted exactly 3 hours. The Council's garrison found themselves facing not primitive rebels, but coordinated teams armed with weapons that ignored their armor and shields. More importantly, the Kithrak fought with a tactical brilliance that shocked their overseers. Later analysis would reveal that the human weapons came equipped with tactical computers that enhanced their users' natural abilities. The Kithrak's collective intelligence, suppressed for centuries by council control, bloomed into a devastating military effectiveness. Similar uprisings erupted across the galaxy. On the oceanic world of Pelagios, the aquatic Neri received breathing apparatus that allowed them to survive on land for the first time, opening up 3/4 of their planet that had been forever beyond their reach. On the desert world of Kethmoran, the crystalline Shardai found energy, weapons perfectly adapted to their silicon-based biology, but it was in the council chambers themselves that the most dangerous revolution was taking place. High Counselor Thexai of the Valthree stood before the emergency assembly, his silver skin reflecting the harsh lights of the council chamber. His telepathic abilities, honed over centuries of political manipulation, could feel the fear radiating from his colleagues. "The situation is worse than we calculated," he announced, his mental voice touching all 12 council members simultaneously. "The humans have not simply escaped their quarantine. They have become something we did not anticipate." Councillor Mordak of the Zelani shifted nervously on his platform, his forearms gesturing in patterns that indicated deep distress. "Our entire philosophy has been proven wrong. We assumed that chaos leads to destruction. But the humans have used chaos to build something stronger than order." "The humans are irrelevant," snapped Councillor Iskara of the Hegemony, her reptilian features twisting with anger. "They are one species among thousands. We have fleets that can reduce their entire solar system to cosmic dust, do we?" Thexai's mental voice carried undertones of bitter irony. "Our enforcement fleet at Kepler's Gate was not simply defeated. It was captured intact. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology we deployed against them is now in human hands." The council chamber fell silent except for the humming of life support systems. The implications of that statement were staggering. "They are studying our technology," Councillor Dravnith of the Void Runners observed, his energy-based form flickering with distress. "They are learning our weaknesses. Worse," Thexai continued, "they are sharing what they learn with every species we have suppressed. Our greatest fear has come to pass. The galaxy is remembering how to innovate." He gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic displays showing uprising after uprising across council space. Worlds that had been peaceful for millennia were suddenly armed with advanced weapons and fighting with tactical skills that defied explanation. "The ghost ships," whispered Councillor Lithani of the Deep Swimmers. "They appear from nowhere, deliver weapons and knowledge, then vanish before our fleets can respond. How do we fight an enemy that can be anywhere at any time?" Thexai's expression grew grim. "We use the ancient protocols, the ones we swore never to employ again." The chamber erupted in panicked mental voices. The ancient protocols had not been activated since the Chaos Wars 10,000 years ago. They represented weapons and strategies so devastating that the Council's founders had hidden them away, hoping they would never be needed again. "You cannot be serious," Mordak protested. "Those weapons could destroy entire star systems. The chaos they would unleash is exactly what we face now," Thexai interrupted. "The humans have done what we feared most. They have reminded the galaxy that stagnation is not safety. They have shown other species that growth is possible." He activated the chamber's most secure communication systems, sending authorization codes that had not been used for millennia. "I am authorizing the activation of the cleansing protocols," he announced. "All council fleets will converge on the Sol system. We will end this threat permanently." But even as the orders went out, Thexai knew they might already be too late. The humans had spent 15 years preparing for exactly this response. Earth's quarantine barrier had not been a prison. It had been a forge, and whatever emerged from it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. On Earth itself, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center buried deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The massive chamber was filled with holographic displays showing the movements of council fleets throughout the galaxy. Every ship, every weapon, every troop movement was tracked in real time by human intelligence networks. "Admiral," reported Captain Martinez from his station, "long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements. The Council is mobilizing everything they have." Sarah nodded calmly. "Expected arrival time at Sol?" 6 days, assuming they maintain current heading and speed. More than enough time, she replied. Around her, the command center hummed with quiet efficiency. Unlike council facilities with their rigid hierarchies and formal protocols, the human command structure flowed like water around obstacles. Orders were suggestions, plans were guidelines, and every individual was empowered to adapt and improvise as circumstances demanded. Phase 4 is authorized, Sarah announced. Signal all hidden facilities. It's time to show the Council what 15 years of preparation looks like. Across the solar system, humanity revealed the true scope of their achievements. The asteroid belt erupted with activity as thousands of previously invisible installations came online. Mars opened like a flower, revealing a surface covered with defense platforms and shipyards. Even Earth's moon split apart, unfolding into a massive space station that had been disguised as a natural satellite. But the greatest revelation was Earth itself. The planet's surface began to glow with energy patterns that could be seen from space. The entire world had been converted into a fortress. Its crust shot through with exotic matter conduits and defensive systems that operated on principles the Council could not understand. Admiral, called the communications officer, we're receiving transmission from the lead Council fleet. High Counselor Thexai wants to negotiate. Sarah smiled coldly. Put him through. Thexai's image appeared on the main screen, his silver features twisted with a mixture of fear and rage. Humans of Earth. His voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of authority. You have defied the will of the galaxy. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to survive in servitude. Counteroffer, Sarah replied calmly. You have exactly 1 hour to recall your fleets and dissolve the Council. In return, we'll allow you to retain your freedom. Thexai's expression turned incredulous. You dare threaten us? We have fleets that can sterilize entire star systems. We have weapons from the dawn of galactic civilization. Yes, Sarah agreed. You have ancient weapons designed to fight ancient enemies. We have modern weapons designed to fight you. She gestured, and the screen split to show tactical displays from across the galaxy. Council fleets that had been advancing confidently were now finding themselves harassed by human ships that appeared from nowhere, struck with devastating precision, and vanished before retaliation was possible. Your fleets are already being systematically disabled, Sarah continued. Your command networks are compromised. Your supply lines are cut. The galaxy you've controlled for so long is rising. 2 years after the Council's defeat, the galaxy bore little resemblance to the rigid hierarchy that had ruled for 10 millennia. Zarthek floated through the ruins of what had once been the Council's greatest archive, his crystal body resonating with frequencies of discovery that made other researchers jealous. Another data vault. His human colleague, Dr. Sarah Kim, called from across the vast chamber. She was Admiral Chen's daughter, but had chosen archaeology over military service. The encryption is unlike anything we've seen before. Zarthek drifted over to examine the ancient storage device. His perception abilities, enhanced by human biotechnology, could detect energy patterns that revealed the true nature of what they had found. This isn't just data storage, he said, his crystalline voice creating harmonics that made the chamber sing. It's a memory core, the actual preserved consciousness of one of the original Council founders. Dr. Kim's eyes widened. Can we access it safely? With human quantum computers and Zephyrian perception working together? Yes, Zarthek replied, though I suspect we won't like what we find. They activated the memory core using a hybrid interface that combined human adaptability with Zephyrian precision. The chamber filled with holographic images as the ancient consciousness began to replay its stored experiences. They watched the true history of the Council unfold. 10,000 years ago, the galaxy had indeed been in chaos. Hundreds of species had achieved spaceflight simultaneously, leading to conflicts that threatened all life. But the solution had not been the Council's rigid control. The original chaos bringers that the Council claimed to have defeated had actually been innovators and explorers who sought to help all species reach their potential. They had been developing technologies that could have solved the conflicts peacefully. Universal translation, resource multiplication, even methods of sharing consciousness between species. They weren't destroyed in a war, Dr. Kim whispered, watching the horrible truth unfold. They were assassinated. The Council founders murdered them and then rewrote history. Zarthek's crystal body rang with frequencies of anger. They didn't save the galaxy from chaos. They saved themselves from being replaced by something better. The memory core showed how the Council had systematically eliminated any species that showed too much innovation, too much independence, or too much potential for growth. The peaceful galaxy had been built on 10,000 years of systematic oppression. "Dr. Kim," came a voice through their communication systems. "This is Elder Yintai. We need you both at the Unity Station. Something wonderful is happening." They took a human transport ship to Unity Station, the first truly multi-species habitat ever built. Unlike Council facilities designed to separate different species, Unity Station was a living example of cooperation. Humans, Silnari, Kitharak, Nere, and dozens of other species worked together in spaces designed to accommodate all their needs. Elder Yintai met them at the docking bay. The Silnari's skin showed colors of excitement and hope that Zarthek had learned to interpret over the past 2 years. "The Kepler 452 terraforming project is complete," Yintai announced. "A dead world has been transformed into a garden in just 18 months. They traveled to the observation deck, where massive windows showed the planet below. Kepler 452b had once been a barren rock. Now it was covered with green continents and blue oceans. Cities could be seen from orbit, but they blended seamlessly with the natural landscape. "How is this possible?" Zarthek asked. "Even human biotechnology shouldn't work this fast." "It doesn't," Dr. Kim replied with a smile. "But human biotechnology combined with Silnari agricultural expertise, enhanced by Kithrak industrial efficiency, and guided by Zephyrian environmental perception? That combination can transform worlds." Through the windows they could see ships arriving and departing constantly. Some carried new colonists eager to start lives on a world where they could choose their own destiny. Others carried resources and technology to help establish more colonies elsewhere in the galaxy. "Each species brings something unique to the combination," Yintai explained. "Humans provide adaptability and innovation. My people bring deep understanding of life and growth. The Kithrak excel at large-scale construction. The Zephyrians can perceive environmental patterns that others miss. And what emerges is greater than the sum of its parts," Zarthek observed. "Exactly," said a new voice. Admiral Chen entered the observation deck, now wearing the uniform of the Commonwealth's first Lord Admiral. "It turns out the Council was right about one thing. The galaxy is better when different species work together. They just didn't understand that together doesn't mean controlled." She gestured toward the planet below. "Every world that joins the Commonwealth chooses to join. Every species that stands with us stands as an equal. And if they decide they want to leave, they can leave. Has anyone chosen to leave?" Dr. Kim asked. Chen smiled. 3 systems have chosen independence over membership. We helped them establish their own governments and offered continued trade and friendship. 2 of them have since asked to rejoin, and 1 remains happily independent. The Council would never have allowed such freedom," Zarthek observed. "Which is why the Council fell," Chen replied. "Empires built on fear eventually fear themselves. We're building something different, a confederation based on choice." They were interrupted by an urgent message from the station's communication center. A new signal had been detected from the edge of the galaxy. Not from any known species, but from humans. "That's impossible," Dr. Kim said. "All human colonies are accounted for." Admiral Chen's expression grew thoughtful. "Not all of them. The Horizon expedition launched 50 years ago, long before first contact with the Council. They were heading for the Andromeda Galaxy. The message, when it finally came through the interstellar communication network, was brief but stunning. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Andromeda expedition. We have established first contact with the civilizations of this galaxy. They're very interested in something called the Terran Commonwealth. Permission to begin formal diplomatic relations?" The observation deck fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's reach had already extended beyond their home galaxy. The Commonwealth wasn't just a local phenomenon. It was becoming something that spanned the entire local group of galaxies. "Admiral," Dr. Kim said slowly, "how far has humanity spread?" Chen walked to the main display and called up a galactic map. Points of light appeared throughout their galaxy and beyond, showing human settlements, Commonwealth territories, and allied species. "Further than we ever imagined possible," she replied. "Generation ships launched during the isolation period have established colonies in 7 different galaxies. Each one has made contact with local civilizations and begun sharing Commonwealth principles. You're creating an empire that spans multiple galaxies, Zarthek observed, his crystal body vibrating with awe. Not an empire, Chen corrected gently. A choice. We're offering every species in the local galactic cluster the same thing we offered you, the freedom to choose their own path among the stars. Months later, Zarthek found himself on the bridge of a generation ship called the New Dawn. These massive vessels were humanity's latest achievement, ships the size of moons that could carry entire civilizations between galaxies. The New Dawn was bound for a distant galaxy cluster where automated probes had detected signs of intelligent life. It seems wrong, said his companion, a young Silnari named Telnara, who had volunteered for the mission.
We're leaving everything we know.
Behind, Zarthek looked out at the stars streaming, past as the ship's exotic matter drives carried them between galaxies, at speeds that made light seem slow. We're not leaving anything behind, he replied. We're carrying it with us. The Commonwealth isn't about territory or resources. It's about an idea. What idea? That every conscious being deserves the right to choose their own destiny, Zarthek said. And that the universe is big enough for every species to find their own path among the stars. In the ship's vast central habitat, representatives of dozens of species worked together to prepare for contact with whatever civilizations they might find. Humans provided creativity and adaptability. Silnari offered wisdom about growth and cooperation. Kithrak contributed industrial expertise. Zephyrians shared their unique perceptions. But more than technology or knowledge, they carried something that had been missing from the galaxy for 10,000 years. Hope. Hope that different species could work together without one dominating the others. Hope that innovation and change didn't have to lead to chaos and destruction. Hope that the universe was vast enough for everyone to find their place. As the New Dawn approached its destination, Zarthek reflected on how much had changed since that first human ship had been turned away from Concordia Station. The Council had feared that humanity would bring chaos to their ordered galaxy. They had been right. But chaos, it turned out, was just another word for possibility, and the universe had room for infinite possibilities. The story of humanity's rejection had become the story of the galaxy's liberation. The species that had been cast out by the Council had built not just a fleet, not just an empire, but something far greater. They had built a future where every being could choose to reach for the stars.